Hippie podcast, where art and wellness collide.
Hey, Lürxx, when we play Nature Warrior Glam Punk!
Well, oh my gosh, welcome back then. Well, I guess welcome you for the first time and welcome everybody else back to the Healthy Metal Hippie. We are super excited to have you guys here today to talk all about the Lürxx, all about mental health, nature warrior, glam punk, how it all combines. And honestly, thank you so much for being here today.
It's our pleasure.
Would you like to give a little introduction to who you are and how you wound up here in the UK?
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. Right, so I'm Xavi,
I'm Sunny.
and we've been knowing each other ever since we are 12 years old. So we met in school, and it was an instantaneous, this is the missing half of, this is the person I've always missed in my life. So we met, and it was clear we are twins. So we've been twins ever since we're 13. And we pretty much instantly started making music together and went through different bands and different steps that then eventually got us to Hollywood and eventually got us to the UK. But we've always done everything together. So ever since we're 13, we've just been inseparable, like truly true twin magic. Actually, people for a long time would just always assume that we are twins because we're kind of like same size as well. So it kind of helps the illusion that like the two of us, we're both quite small, especially by American standards. So over there, it was just like, these two tiny little people. So yeah.
We've been called hobbits.
We've been called hobbits, yes.
Hobbits.
Yeah. Yes, because, yeah. And like hobbits, we're out to save the world.
Yeah.
Right? Like from the evil powers. So that's cool.
Yes. Well, I mean, I told you when you sent me an email, I was just so excited and just intrigued by everything that you had to tell me. And I just felt like there's some secret magic brewing that the world needs to know about. And so I've honestly been really, really looking forward to doing this. So cool. It's fabulous. So, like, you described the music as being nature warrior glam punk, which I'm kind of like, okay, yeah.
What is that?
I mean, to me, I'm like, that sounds kind of perfect on every front for me. Because even though, like, all my stuff is heavy metal hippie across all my branding, and obviously the podcast is healthy metal, deep down, I'm a punk rock girl.
Yes,
it's true.
Punk rockers deep down. That's really for me. That's my first musical imprint. I would say is probably punk rock because when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my mom sang in a punk rock band, and she was very much. We were living in Berlin at the time, and so it was a very underground, very never amounted to anything out of the rehearsal room. But it was, I remember her taking me to these rehearsals, and her big hero was a German punk singer called Nina Hagen. I don't know if you heard of her, but she was just very kind of like cutting edge, coming from sort of an opera background. So my mom comes from a classical background as well, and so. Anyway, she used to take me there to this rehearsal room, and they were like all these big guys with like motorcycles and tattoos, and it was all very rough, and I loved it. I was just like, this is the coolest thing. And my mom would rehearse these songs at home, and one of her favorite bands was, again, a German punk band, like an activist punk band, actually. They used to play at the big demonstrations. They used to have in Berlin, they're called Tonsteine Scherben. Actually, on our new record, we're going to cover one of their songs. That's been like one of the songs that has been with me for all my life. So I could really say like I'm a punk rocker ever since I'm like 4 or 5 years old. That's just totally my thing. And then I turned Sunny on to it much later.
Me not at all.
No, so so you weren't punk rock then? What were you then?
It's funny that we so much didn't hit it off as twins because our first 12 years were very, very different because Xavi's a big city kid, obviously, with growing up in Berlin, and I was a total countryside kid. So I all through the 80s. So we're both generation 77. So we're born when all through the 80s. I actually thought that I didn't like music. Because the shit that was on the radio where I grew up, like around my tiny shithole area, that was just all like horrible 80s pop And it was just, I hated it. There was like nothing on the radio for something like 10 years that I could relate to at all whatsoever. And I really seriously thought I didn't like music. Like I was really suspicious of all children who listed music as their hobby, because I thought, what the fuck do you see in fucking music? And I didn't realize, because I didn't have a musical horizon, that I just hated the fucking shit that was on the radio.
There was other stuff
Yeah.
out there.
I didn't know there was other stuff out there. Yeah. So when I then met Xavi, like he for the first time actually showed me kind of like the stuff he was listening to,
And I showed you the Beatles.
and I so got into it. Like I still remember the day when he brought his Walkman to school. Like he was one of these Walkman kids. He'd be listening to music a lot, and he came from this really poor family, so he had this trashy Walkman with really shitty sound quality.
Oh, yeah.
And he put this Walkman on over my ears, and it was Across the Universe by the Beatles, and it was the version they did for some nature charity. I think it may have been Greenpeace, where in the beginning you have the sound of birds flying, and then the song only comes in, and it sounded really kind of wobbly and distorted because of his shitty sound quality Walkman. But it was such a magical moment for me. And it was just like, that was it. And it was so wonderful. And then we wanted to be in a band together. Yeah. That was it for me.
Oh my God. It honestly, it makes me so happy because, okay, I'm like a massive Beatles fan to start with. So I don't know, just hearing all that, how it, the Beatles always change lives, and I think they will forever.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing.
I remember one of the first presents that I ever gave you was the Ringo picture from, the White Album where you had like the 4 pictures.
Yes.
And like, I didn't like Ringo. So it was like, I could part with the Ringo picture, It's like, I don't want to, I wouldn't have given you the John picture, the Paul picture, or the George fan. I was a huge George fan. But the Ringo picture was all right. I could part with the Ringo picture.
So I got that, and it was just the symbolic gift,
You had it up your wall, man.
I did. Music was gifted to me by Xavi
In the form of a Ringo picture.
Yeah, but I love Ringo though. He is my Beatle, like since I was young. And so that would have been like an ideal gift for me.
Wow.
Because I think I just really loved his name. I was like, Ringo Starr, what a cool name. And
I must say, as a kid, I really loved Octopus's Garden.
You still do.
Yeah. And like, I loved it already then. Like, so it wasn't like, that was that and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Those were my 2 favorite Beatles songs.
And Octopus's Garden is, of course, also a great connection because he then later studied marine environmental protection. So
yeah. So
that's cool.
Wow.
It all comes back to it.
It all makes
sense. The universe.
So, okay. So then you started a band when you were like 13.
Yeah.
And that was in Hollywood?
No, they were still in Europe.
And the funny thing is that, I mean, we were just these gigantic Beatles fans. So we, from the beginning, really like from week 1, when we decided we were a band, we started writing our own music. We only years later realized that most people start out as cover bands, right? And we never had that idea really, because
Lennon and McCartney were songwriters, so we were going to write songs. It was just like crystal clear to us.
Yeah.
That was, so we've always been a songwriting team ever since. We could hardly play anything. We could play like literally 2 or 3 chords and we'd be writing our first songs, because that's what you do when you're in a band. You write your own music.
Yeah. That was the only way we knew it, right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's all you need, right? Is the 2 or 3 chords. And
and then you go from there.
I mean, I don't want to stay stuck on the Beatles, but like, did that also kind of foster some of that love for nature and the connection that way? Or was that previously there?
That older. That was previously there. I think this whole our love for nature comes probably from different sources, right? It had to do with growing up through the 80s, where everything looked incredibly bleak.
Yeah, I mean, like you had the big oil spills, you had Chernobyl, you had the acid rain, like it was all very like doomsday. When people nowadays talk about eco-anxiety, it's like we grew up with so much eco-anxiety, but no one talked about it back then. It wasn't a thing. So you felt very, very isolated if you had it,
cared, right?
because
Like,
people were not, they didn't realize we had the ozone layer thing. So like there were a lot of very, like I grew up seriously thinking, because my parents were quite involved in all sorts of activism. So I was very informed as a small child about all of the awful things happening. And I grew up convinced that by the time I was 40, that was somehow, I had gotten this in my head, 40. By the time I was 40, there wouldn't be any trees left. And like I would have to live in a world without trees. And that just used to make me so incredibly sad. And I'm always like, there's still trees. It's like but so for me it was, I don't know, like nature was just, and the need to protect nature, the need to do something for nature, and just like that deep love. I wanted to be an environmental scientist when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I asked for an encyclopedia for Christmas because I wanted to learn about nature stuff, and then my dad got me like this huge encyclopedia, and I loved it. And I would just like flip through it and just read all these scientific articles about. So like when I was 7 years old. So
yeah, so that was really, really,
it's an old thing.
yeah,
The love for nature. Yeah.
yeah.
So I studied. That was my second. It was my second university career. We both studied classics before that, so we're both kind of Latin nerds because we love ancient history and languages. And then I went back to uni after a burnout and a sabbatical, and then I kind of was like, I need to go back to this first idea that I had when I was 7 or 8, that I want to do environmental sciences, and then I did a whole other. Like then I ended up getting a master in marine environmental protection. And that's also what I work in now, is environmental stuff. Like I do climate change outreach work within the local community.
Does that all entail now for you?
Everything. Yeah, I think we just like managed now to sort of just like draw all these different interests together, or like the things that have been important for us all through our lives, and sort of bring them together.
Yeah.
And put it into music, because our musical journey, we then started playing, like when we started playing, we played the 60s pop stuff, right? Like when we started writing, we wrote that 60s pop stuff as kids.
I had troubles with my girl, she's so intellectual. So that was the kind of stuff we wrote. We would have been child stars in the 60s, like absolutely. But
yeah. I think so.
And then later and then later as youths, we then started really playing punk. So like when we were 16, 17, we had a punk band, and then
we kind of gravitated towards heavier stuff, like listening to more metal, like Motorhead was a big one, and Sabbath, and
with that we then went to Hollywood, because by that time there was just this huge Britpop explosion in England going on.
We were at that time we lived in London. And
that was a 95. That was when we were 18. And we realized that if you didn't want to swim along with that Britpop mainstream, there was just no space for you. So that's when we then left and moved to LA. In LA, funny enough, so in this gigantic city, that was the first time, when we really started to also put that nature connection into our music for the first time. When we were really living right off Sunset Strip. But what we did there a lot is that we walked up and down Sunset Strip like you just somehow just do when you live there. But we just looked at the plants, we looked at the snails and the planters, we looked at hummingbirds and the birds, at
pigeons.
So I think we just perceived it in a really weird way, probably.
I think Hollywood for us was quite different than this one.
Hollywood was for a lot of people, yeah.
We wrote we wrote a song back in 95 that was also on our very first demo that we did in 96, and it was called The Age of Fish. And that was actually a song about evolution and about that we all come out of the water and we're basically all one. There's no distinction. Like all life on Earth is just like this one life, and there are no hierarchies. And even without knowing it, it was basically an anti-speciesist song before we knew that was a thing. And so you can tell that there was that seed in our music, but it wasn't something that we had really worked out as our main thing. Like we were still a bit all over the place with our music. We had a lot of songs that were kind of a bit sort of Lovecraft, pretentious ramblings about like nightmares and like that sort of metal, that metal imagery, like that was very that kind of stuff, and a lot of fantasy tales and a lot of sort of societal critique, and then some of the nature stuff thrown in there. And then now second time around, when we got back into making music, then this nature thing has just become our focal point. So in a way, it's more like it's always been there, but now we've really brought it all together into our art.
I mean, now you also just know so much more about it because you studied it, right?
So, So one of our new songs, for example, is on our new record, is going to be about tree communication. It's about how trees communicate through the mycorrhiza networks and that kind of stuff we wouldn't have known before. And now we do. And I actually lead people through the woods in my day job and explain it to them. And we look at the trees and I kind of like talk about it. And then it was just a small step to saying, let's make a rock song about that. So,
and I love that too. And I love how people are getting more and more aware of those things, like truly how connected everything is. And yes, how the trees all talk to each other and it just everything. And I think it's really cool that you bring that out in your music as well, and just raising the world's consciousness. I really love that.
Yeah, and it's very much our mission, really.
And in a positive way. And I think that's where the glam comes in, because glam is so fun, right? Like, it's just fun to be glam. Like, you dress up and you don't give a shit about if people think you're silly, and you just do like this. And I think that our music, even though we talk a lot about nature, and we also touch, of course, on kind of dark topics, because there are a lot of things that are problematic. But we do it with like a positive energy, and always with this idea of giving people positive experience, a fun experience. So they actually go out after listening to our music or seeing us live. They go out feeling empowered, and they go out feeling just kind of good, energized,
positively energized,
rather than just like, oh, I've heard a bunch of really depressing songs about like how the world is going to shit.
I think that's the way to inspire change too, though, is like doing it with positivity and not doing it out of like doom and gloom and fear. That doesn't inspire change. It makes people just kind of wallow in their shit and be like, there's nothing that I could do. But you guys are like, look at this, you could fucking do something.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so impactful then.
We were playing at a little local festival last summer, and the guy who was organizing it, after the show, he came up to us and he said to us, it's amazing how you manage to touch on all these subjects, but without making you feel bad, but
in such a joyful way.
Yeah, in such a joyful way. And that made me so happy, because that's exactly what we try to do.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to run away from these topics because we need to fucking face them. Otherwise, they're not going to get better.
Yeah. And, sort shit out.
Got to sort shit out. So we can't ignore it. So we got to talk about it, but we just really need a lot of positivity
to be able to have the strength to
do that. Yeah. And that's exactly what we try to inspire.
And so leaving people with that positive impact after one of your shows or after they listen to an album, I think that really positively impacts their mental health as well. And I know you were talking about the connection of all the music that you put out with mental health.
Mental health has just been something that we have a long history of mental health struggles ourselves as well. And music has always been like one of the important things that you when you're not in a good space and you have a certain band you just kind of get hooked on, and they kind of help you through that. So I think that realization that music can be incredibly powerful, like positive uplifter, and really change your life is something that we've experienced ourselves. I know that when I had my burnout, there was a Catalan band that I listened to a lot, which just became like a real, not only a lifesaver for me, because they were very kind of positive, energetic band, but they changed my life in a way that I learned Catalan. I actually moved to Catalonia and I ended up living there for several years, all because of that band, because they had kind of opened the door to that world for me. And that was where I healed from my burnout and then was able to rebuild my life. So that was, I think, I will never forget what that band did for me. And I think the idea to yourself as an artist, you just kind of have this power to be that for people, no matter, like, they also, for example, they're not a famous band. They're just like a local band that, like, I just happened to come across them because their CD was in some punk catalog I looked at. So also this idea of anything you put out there, no matter if you're a big famous band or if you're a small local band, someone might find you and then might take something you do and really, really be able to use it in their own life to make themselves feel better. And we've already, even though we're not a very well-known band, but we've already had people come back to us saying like, you've inspired me so much. You've really like, you're the reason that I picked up a guitar again. You're the like stuff like that. And just like, wow, that power that music has over people's minds. It's just, and I think you almost have like a duty as an artist to be aware of that. Like that's what I feel anyway. Like because I'm an educator at heart, and she's an educator at heart. So we're like, we need to use that power in that way to help people.
And I think I very much feel that music is the one, or like generally art, but I mean specifically music, it's like the one thing I can do to help make the world a bit of a better place, because I'm incredibly sensitive. It's like I'm hypersensitive. So like I actually have a history of depression. Like I used to, like for 10 years I used to struggle with quite a shitty depression, because the world is so shit, and I just didn't feel like I could deal with it, like because of all the all the suffering, all the shit going on, like all the tortured animals and everything, and I just felt I couldn't live in this world. Like I just didn't know how to exist in this world. And with a lot of help from my mom and a bit of therapy and Xavi also, I just learned to change my attitude. And like one thing that Xavi really managed to get stuck in my head is just like this idea of that we have the right to be happy, and that you should not let only the assholes be happy who aren't sensitive, and that's why they're not troubled. But like the good people have the right to be happy too. You can't give happiness only to the assholes, right? But you have to claim it for yourself too. So I really struggle with just being in this normal structure shit crap world out there. It's like I, for example, really struggle with going to demonstrations because of all the information that is there. It's like I know that for many people, going to demonstrations is like a great thing, because they just feel that
the community
lifts them up.
Yeah.
It doesn't lift me up. It just pulls me down, the fact that we have to go on the street and fight for the things that are necessary and for the necessary changes. Like I just wish there wouldn't be that necessity to go out on the street. And I just like for me, it's really, I realized that making music and putting my beliefs into lyrics and into bright melodies, that is just the one thing that I can do where I can really make a difference. So I'm just, also trying to convey this knowledge that healed me and put that out there for other people to find. Because that's what fucking saved me, It's like I was really in a shitty place, and
right to happiness, helping people to achieve that
in the face of all the horrible things going on.
And you've got that, like you've got people, and it works. Like you've got people. We have this really often after our shows, that someone from the audience will come up to us, always women, and will just like stand in front of us and say, "Can I hug you?" And because they're kind of overwhelmed by this other lady who said, "You sing my life." So we get this deep connection, which is just the most beautiful and amazing thing. But it's exactly that. I think it's because we just give unfiltered, we just give that from our own emotions. And like what Sunny was saying, like, here it is. Here is what saved me. Here is what I think can have a positive impact on you. And then you just get that back from people, and they kind of clock it, and they notice that something's shifting. So that's
it's just super authentic and really, really deep. And at the same time, it's entertaining and fun. So it's just a great thing to do. I really feel that that's the best thing we've done so far.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
I totally agree. Having that connection with music, I think most people could say that there's one band or there's something that sort of changed them or saved them or at least got them through a rough time, right?
Yeah.
And I always think like how lucky we are that we have music in our lives. And I can imagine how impactful it is when people come up to you and tell you the impact that you've had on them. There's so many things there that I want to touch on, because I'm like, oh my God, burnout. Oh my God. Yeah. Depression. Hi. Been there. Sometimes still go there. And, you know, and I know a lot of the listeners that we have, you know, all have or are dealing with mental health struggles or trauma and all sorts of things that people are working through. And it's cool to have this community that you can, you know, support each other through, right? I was looking at a YouTube video that you sent me, and I was reading some of the comments people had left, and just people talking about how much they love you and how it's like the best show and how they feel so good after. And so, like, I know you're not just like, yeah, everybody loves us. Everybody's there literally going, oh my God, you guys are amazing. And it's just, oh, it makes me so happy though. And we need that. We need that, like, that hug when you go to a show, right? Even if it's not an actual physical hug, we need that feeling
That
of
mental,
a
that
hug.
feeling of community.
Yeah.
And it especially now, I mean, where we've got this whole horrible sort of post-humanist AI bullshit invading the arts. And I think the focus needs to be on the real human community, on real art, real music, real emotional connection between humans and live music, and just having this, fostering this kind of, that real communal spirit, and just getting rid of all this fake AI slop.
Robo bullshit.
Yeah, it's something that even when you now look into rock music production, I mean, we've got our home studio, and the record that we're doing right now, we're actually producing ourselves, and we love it because it's that you can capture all the magic moments in your home studio, and it's completely your own vision. But the EP we did before that, Palm Trees, oh yeah, we did with James Michael, the singer of 6 a.m. Who's also he's a friend of ours, and he had just retired, and we kind of became his retirement project. And he said, "Well, let's do a couple of songs together." So he mixed and mastered this EP, and we had a lot of discussions with him because he had worked obviously for decades in the business behind the scenes as a mixer and producer. And he let us in on just what industry standards are, how much they clean everything up, how much they treat the vocals, how much everything is kind of streamlined, and then there's like one drum sound that the whole rock industry is using because that's what everyone's using now. So it was super interesting working with him. And he was like, from the beginning, I don't want none of that for you guys. Like, I want to capture that punky chaos that you're doing. And he did an amazing job at it. But for us, it was incredible working with such a high-level producer because of all the insights he gave us about the industry and industry standards. And we were just, at every turn, we're kind of like, we don't like this. We don't, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We want to do the authentic thing. We're like, at our hearts, you know, we're like a punk garage band in the sense of we want the stuff to sound good, but we don't want it to be treated. We don't want it to be treated in a way that's not human anymore. So we're quite purist with these things. We will.
Because for us, and James understood that, that's why it was so wonderful to work with him. Because for us, it's all about capturing this raw emotion, because that is where our message lies.
Yeah.
Right. And that it's about connecting between people emotionally. That's what it is. And you don't want to polish that off.
No. You don't want to polish that off. Exactly.
Yeah, there's so much of that done. And I think people are actually really hungry for the real shit, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of why we do end up hating so much that's on the radio, because it all sounds the same.
Yeah.
That's another part of it. But yeah, you want it to sound real, unpolished, and just more authentic. And it's easier for people to connect with that way. I also think that's like one thing that I love about punk in general is that it is chaotic, but somehow you just feel like welcome and safe amongst all the chaos, right?
Yeah, it's a safe space.
Yeah, because being a human, it's chaotic, right? I mean, we are not always super sorted on our inside.
No, we're not.
We're messy. We're messy beings. And I think you're absolutely right. Punk rock is like a mirror image of that. And I always felt that generally punk rock and rock music is just this this basin where as a misfit you can just kind of go and have a safe place. And that's why it's so horrible when mainstream kind of comes and grabs it and tries to make it all nice and polished, or when you've got people coming in who don't really understand about the values of an underground scene, and they come in and then you've got all of a sudden you've got the kind of racists and bigots coming in because they kind of come through a mainstream door, and then all of a sudden they're consuming the same music that you like, and you're like, hang on, no, I don't. This is not for you. This is
the safe space for for people who just want to be
who they are. And just that, like the level of, I think within the punk scene, especially the level of just tolerance for differences and just being your own self, no matter if you're being weird, if you're having a bad day and you go out to a gig or something and just don't want to talk to anyone, you want to just sit in the corner and just kind of be there, and people will just leave you alone. They'll just accept that, like they don't come battering you like all the time to somehow be sociable. And then at the same time, if you want to be sociable, you can be. It's just, there's this whole, I think that was amazing about the glam punk scene in Hollywood when we were there, because that was a really fun scene, because we came to Hollywood in 96. So when the Sunset Strip was dead, I mean, the Sunset Strip scene was gone, hair metal had come and gone, and it was really a scene of leftovers, you could say. Like people who still loved it, who still were doing it because they loved it, not because they thought they were going to be successful. Because no one was going to be successful from that, like commercially successful, because
that time was just over.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it was great. We didn't know because it was pre-internet. So the reason we went to LA literally was because we had gotten into Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses had gone to LA. We were going to do the same thing. Like that made sense to us, our 18-year-old brains. That made complete sense to do that. We had zero idea what the music scene in LA was like at the time. We had all the Guns N' Roses biographies talking about like 10 years ago. So we're just like, yeah, whatever. We're just going to go there and do the same thing like what our heroes did. And then when we came there, we discovered there was this glam punk scene, which was kind of hanging in there. And we kind of latched onto that. And it was just this really rough and tumble underground scene, a mixture of punk bands, of glam bands, like some more hair metal-ish bands and gothic bands. Like it was just a bunch of misfits playing music that at that point in time no one was interested in, and we just got all kind of banded together. And there was a big like glitter and glam night every month at the Coconut Teaser that we used to play at, and it was just so fun, and everyone was somehow so, in a way, they were all, of course, they're big personalities, and everyone's in a way playing a role, because you're all kind of like projecting that Hollywood rocker life. But in another way, it was super honest. Like people were just being themselves. Like, yeah, they were huge personas and they were putting on a show when they were on stage, but they were also just nice humans and really accepting. And that was the first time that we ever felt part of a scene. Before that, we had always been the weird kids. Like we'd never really managed to find a scene that really spoke to us, and that was the first time that we were like, yes,
we were actually, that's the first time
everyone's weird.
That's the first time that we really found a home. Because I mean, that's also why we so honestly feel that we're a Hollywood band, although we had made music before for years, and we had.
Yeah, I mean, our first record, what we released in England, but
we had never been part of anything.
Yeah,
we were always very isolated. And when we then found that scene in LA, that was the first time that we were part of a scene, and that's when we really learned how to be part of a scene.
Yeah,
how to behave as a band in a local scene and
supporting each other. Yeah. And there was this amazing guy, Tracy Michaels, who was like the heart of the scene. He was just super friendly. He was just super friendly. He has the bright green hair, mini skirts, and like he was the epitome of that scene. And he just welcomed us. He was so friendly to everyone. And when we were new there, we were kind of shy, like just these shy 18-year-old kids, just like fresh out of the plane, basically. And he just kind of welcomed us into that scene. And he was like, hey, are you in a band? And it's like, oh, you should talk to this guy. He does the bookings for this night. He might like you. And so he really just kind of was like, come on in. Like, we're nice. And that was for us just something we had never experienced. And we will like just being forever thankful.
Yeah.
And we actually, we hooked up again with two guys for one of the songs that's on the EP, The Streets Are Paved with Stars, which is about coming to Hollywood and living on the streets and
it's one of the few songs we have, which aren't like totally nature facing. Really, it's
an autobiographical song. And we got in touch with two guys from a punk band that we used to play with all the time. That was our favorite band. They're called The Mistakes. Amazing band. And it's so much fun. And they were a 3-piece band, and 2 of them we got in touch with, and they're actually singing gang vocals on The Streets Are Paved with Stars. So we actually got them to do some recordings, and we've got them on there. So that old scene is kind of coming back together.
It was so nice to hook up.
And they're such nice people. It's
awesome.
Really, really awesome.
That's so cool. There's so much gatekeeping in general. When you find your people and they're like, come. It's like, God, it's the best feeling.
Yeah. And it's something we really try to give to people too, because here when we live in Alton, there's actually quite there's a tiny music scene, because there's a college that has a music branch, and there's always bands coming out of that college. So there's a lot of young kids who are taking their first steps in bands. And then some of these bands end up sticking around, and kids start getting really, really serious about it and really try to take it further. And so we're friends with a bunch of these kids. And we always try to kind of be that big brother that we would have liked to have. When we were that age, we always felt so alone before we then went to Hollywood. So we're always trying to, if they need any kind of advice on just band stuff that doesn't have to do with like the modern social media stuff, which obviously they are much better at it than we are. They're all going to have more followers on Instagram than we do, because they know how to do it. But if it comes to like real like band stuff and how to find your voice as an artist and stuff like that, we always try to share very freely like everything we know, because that's exactly it. There's too much gatekeeping. There's like it should just be everyone lifting each other up, because we're not competing. I hate this notion of competition.
Yeah. And again, that's something that we learned in Hollywood, right? That like just in this scene, it was all about lifting each other
up. There wasn't, you weren't competing, because there wasn't anything to compete for. Like that, no one was gonna get any kind of grand prize out of that scene. So
I think that's the thing too. Like, say even you were competing in some way, you're still also different. So the only person, no matter what, that you're actually competing with is yourself, right?
Yeah.
I don't understand that either, like withholding knowledge or not introducing people or whatever. I just find it crazy that people pull that, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that you do that for all the local kids that are up and coming in your area.
And it's so much fun as well, because you get to see them develop. And I just love it when kids get into making music. I mean, that's just the most beautiful thing. Like the arts, like if someone chooses the arts over, a secure career, it's like a wonderful thing. It's so tough, and you have to work so hard, and to be willing to do that. I think it's something that's so commendable, and you just want to give everyone all the help they can get, because oftentimes probably they're not going to get that much support from maybe their families who maybe want them to do something different, because
our youth was such a fight before we finally found that home in that Hollywood scene. We were just like so fucking alone, and we just like had parents torpedoing us, teachers torpedoing us.
We were just in fight mode all the time. We were just, we were very, I think, looking back, we were probably extremely unpleasant to be around as youths.
Oh, yeah.
But we were just fighting. We were just kicking at everyone, because they were trying to make us do things we didn't want to do. And there was no support or understanding that we felt.
Yeah, they were. They were trying to pull us apart. For example, we really had to fight for
everything. We had to fight for our friendship. We had to fight for our music. We had to fight for. It was just like a continuous fight, and it's just nice if you're someone in a position where you can just lift people up, so maybe they don't have to
fight as much.
Yeah.
It's hard when you've got opposing forces, from from every direction.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much negativity. I mean, like really, as youths, we were also, I mean, we were so into drugs and into drinking because we just somehow tried to flee from all this aggression.
What did you say the other day? It was the best option in a place where you had no options.
That's right.
Because
yeah,
because it was so much. It felt like such a dead end, and then of course you've got all the bad role models that are your heroes that are doing the drugs and the drinking, and then it becomes like a proxy. Like you can't do what they're doing because you're stuck somewhere where people don't support you, and there's no scene, and you have the feeling musically you're going nowhere because it's just a dead end fucking place you're stuck in. But what you can do is you can do the same drugs. And, then that becomes that becomes like a proxy thing. And as soon as we were able to actually do music, and actually for us coming to LA was a lifesaver because we actually stopped doing drugs there. Because we were like, finally, we can do what we want to do. So we actually came to LA and stopped doing drugs, which probably is like the reverse of what happens to a lot of people. But
yeah, usually it's like they get out there and then they're like, okay, drugs time. But
yeah, no, for us it was absolutely the other way around.
Yeah.
We came from being such fucking fucked up kids.
Yeah.
Coming to LA when we were 18 and getting clean and sober.
Yeah.
Within like half a year or
something.
The
sober took a bit longer.
Well,
but the clean
was instantaneously pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So yeah, exactly, because there we just didn't have to fight for everything anymore, and we could finally relax. We had people around us who
and it's funny
helped us out a bit.
It was funny we could finally relax because on the surface it probably didn't look like it because we were there as illegal immigrants. So we came with a tourist visa, which we threw away, and it was before 9/11, so everything was a bit more relaxed. So we just kind of came in there. We had our one rucksack, our guitars, $1,000 in cash, and that was it. And then we threw away the visa. And our plan had been to get a car and live in the car because we had heard that that's something you can do. And then we wanted to buy a car. So I think the second day we were there, we went down some place where they had cheap cars. And then we realized, somehow that the car dealers weren't really engaging with us because probably they thought we were just some scruffy street kids like trying to steal something because we didn't, look like seriously interested in buying something. And secondly, we then realized you actually needed papers to get a car because then you had to register the car to an address. And of course, we didn't have an address. We didn't have papers. So like the car thing went out of the window. And then we were like, okay, so we're going to have to try to find an apartment or a rehearsal place where we can stay. But we had this very limited amount of money. So we were like, right, so we'll have to stay on the streets because we can't spend that on a motel. We have to keep that together. So if we have to make a down payment for an apartment or something, we have some money. So we spent about 2 weeks on the streets in Hollywood as illegal immigrants, always kind of trying not to draw attention to us so the police wouldn't pick us up. We had all our stuff in a locker at LAX. And we had to renew that locker every 24 hours. And for some reason, we never had the idea because we had arrived really early in the morning. So we had to renew the locker always really early in the morning. So we always joke we're like the only bums that have an alarm clock because we always had our alarm clock because one of us had to take the bus down to LAX to renew the locker. And we never had the idea to just stay there a bit longer and lock the stuff up later in the day. But it was just somehow nothing our brains were capable of. And then after about 2 weeks, we actually found an apartment because we found just one of these places where the landlord was just kind of like, like not so interested in papers or stuff. It was everyone in that house was like a weird person. That was great. So again, that was a bit of a coming home, finding like a community thing. So we were able to get that apartment, and then all our money went into the rent for that apartment, which was $500, which was a lot of money for people who didn't have any. Apartment still exists. Goes for $1,600 now. So yeah, you can tell. And it was just off of the Whiskey A Go-Go. So it was on Clark Street, just when you went up by the Whiskey A Go-Go. And it was actually the very house that Guns N' Roses had crashed at their manager's pad in. It's like in that very house, but we didn't know that at the time.
Because it was pre-internet, we didn't know. So it's so funny, really, because we went to LA because we were such Guns N' Roses fans.
But we never realized we were living in the same house. So but what I'm getting at this longish story is that all our money then went into the rent, and we actually got Sunny's mom would actually wire us money for the rent because like she was probably like, I don't want these kids to be on the street. So we had the rent more or less taken care of, but we had pretty much zero money for food. So there was this whole summer where we just had no food, and we would have to go every day. We'd have to go beg for food. And that took up a lot of energy. So on the surface, it didn't look good at all. I mean, on the surface, it was like we were starving. We were, we had to beg for food. We were illegal. We had no prospect of changing that status ever. But on the inside, we were feeling like the best we ever had. So, it
because
was,
we were finally able to just set up our life together, what we had just always fought for. And it was
an insanely positive time.
Yeah.
I got rid of my eating disorder because I had an eating disorder before in my youth. And then the fact of not having any food, just completely cured it. Because if you, I mean, the eating disorder is all about control and rationing your food, and then when there is just no food to be had, it completely I never struggled with it again, because it was like when there was food, you were going to eat it. You were not going to puke that up. Like there's no way you were going to puke up that one hot dog that you managed to get off of someone. Like, it was all good. It was like a really tough thing to do, and probably looking at it from the outside, I guess our parents were probably terrified. It probably looked like we were potentially going to die at some point. But for us,
they probably thought we were going. They probably thought we were going down, but we were going up.
Yeah,
We felt so much better than before.
Yeah.
That's so nice, though. Yeah, it sounds like that was like a massive turning point, and I can see why you still feel like, we're the Hollywood band. And so how long did you stay there?
Bit over 2 years.
2.5 years?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
Illegal the whole time?
Yeah. And that's then also kind of why we left, because we realized that
there were two reasons that we left, really, wasn't there? Like, the one was that realization that because we were illegal, we didn't really have options.
Yeah, we were just somehow so confined.
Like, we didn't even dare to tour outside of California, because we had heard that Californian license plates were often checked at the state line, because, like, people would just kind of think like, oh, Californians probably have drugs with them or something. So, like, they would just like check IDs. So we were very, and then anyway, we were so poor that we pretty much only ever toured within or ever played within a very small radius around West Hollywood. So we figured that was really limiting for us. We couldn't sign contracts, so just the idea of someone approaching us from a label or whatever and asking us to sign a contract, and then like, that moment we would have to admit we're there illegally, and then obviously like no label's going to take a chance on a bunch of illegal immigrants. So it was kind of clear that if we wanted to get anywhere, we had to go back to Europe, where we actually had the power to sign contracts and tour.
Yeah.
And then it was the time when Finland was really up and coming, because Him was just coming up, and it had a really exciting glam, sleaze, hard rock scene. And we had a self-organized fan club that we had built up, and we had this one girl in Finland who was incredibly invested in us. And I think she did an internship with this manager, and she mentioned us to her. And then this manager started to be interested in us. So it was like, okay, there's this Finnish manager interested in us. And we're anyway kind of thinking about going back to Europe. We had just found a new drummer who happened to be English. We met him in LA, but he was from Liverpool. So that kind of made sense, because he also wasn't a US citizen, so he would have the same problem. So we were like, okay, now we've got a European drummer, we've got European management interest, and this is like a good time to leave. And we did, and nothing happened, because we had been adopted by a big fluffy white cat who walked into our apartment one day and adopted us. And we took him, and we had him in a carry-on bag. He was called Ozzy. And everyone at the airport was just so enamored by him. That was all they were interested in. And the only person who actually asked to see our visa was this German lady from the Lufthansa, who was doing the check-in for the actual airline. And then we were like, we didn't know we had to keep those. Like these slips, we must have thrown them away at some point. We didn't know. And she was like, it doesn't matter. That is such a cute cat. I'll just make you a new one. And that was it. So we weren't even kicked out of the country. We were just allowed to leave with no problem.
Oh my
Saved
God.
by a big fluffy white cat.
Saved by the cat.
Oh my God. You know what? I'll tell you. So yeah, my mom's side of the family is German. And when my great aunt came to California, she, in her like 70s, got banned from going to America ever again because they forgot to stamp her passport. Could you imagine like this cute 70-year-old German lady is like, no, you can never return.
Oh, wow.
Just
That's
crazy.
insane.
And so you
Yeah.
guys got saved by a cat.
Yeah.
By a cat.
Still wearing the cat ears here.
Yes.
Yeah, we've always, ever since Aussie, we've always had rescue cats with us. So we've got
Aw.
3 at the moment. So then we went to Finland. Then we had a massive falling out with management there because we had never had management before. We weren't used to other people taking the reins.
No, I mean we were used to doing everything on our own,
And it didn't go well.
on our own terms, only ever. I mean,
But it was also her fault that it didn't go well because she was
but we're just also absolutely not able to
cooperate.
now.
No, it was not.
It's
It did
just
not
not-
work.
it's not a
It did
thing.
work out well. But it was just a huge shitstorm. Like it started out really good. Like we came and we had, I think 3 days after like literally touching down in Helsinki, we had these 2 really great gigs, one club gig and one festival gig, and like people were excited and we were excited and it was really good. And then we got to shoot a music video and it was aired on like the biggest Finnish rock music or music show on TV, which was cool. We got to be in a glossy magazine. So like it started off really good with a lot of momentum. But then the problem was that our manager was just she was just only looking at the money. She wasn't really looking at building our career in a sustainable way. So the next thing she wanted to do was send us on a tour through northern Finland with one more band. We were all supposed to live in this Volkswagen bus together with this band we didn't even know. And it would have been like 7 or 8 people in one little minibus. So, and it was going to be like through Lapland in autumn. So it was going to be cold and dangerous.
Yeah, like the roads were going to be dangerous because by that point we also already saw that the kind of cars she liked to rent
were the cheapest.
And
cars.
we had made that experience because she once had to rent a car to get us to
a festival.
And she rented a car without brakes.
Yeah.
Right, like it was really precarious, and we just saw ourselves like
in some ditch in Lapland, getting snowed in together with this band we didn't know.
Yeah, like somehow like dying on the roadside. You know, it's like we just saw ourselves like dying in some car crash.
Yeah, so we were like, no, we don't want to do that. And also, these were going to be we had played some gigs like that already in like the Finnish countryside and some pub where we were billed as like the band from Hollywood to bring in people. And apparently we made friends with a girl who was working for a manager, and she showed us the contracts and how much money we were making off of these gigs, money that we didn't really see, but like these were very well paid gigs, which is why she booked them. So in the provinces you could just get loads of money for a band from America, whereas in Helsinki, where all the happening clubs were, of course, the clubs didn't have to pay that kind of money because, you know, all the bands wanted to play in their clubs.
Right.
So from a money point of view, she was going to make a lot more money having us play somewhere at the ass end of the country.
But we also didn't have any fans, whereas like we had people who were interested in us in Helsinki, so we wanted to play for the people who already knew us.
We were like, can we play in Helsinki? Like, we want to play the cool Helsinki clubs.
Where we have people who could actually come to our shows and who want to see us. And so we just had a fight.
And so we said no to that tour. And then the other thing was that she had come up with, she had some connections and she had actually gotten us we had a record deal offer from Sony Records or a subsidiary of Sony Records. I'm not sure, but it was definitely something connected to Sony Records. And they were offering us probably I would say now with my knowledge now, it was probably a development deal, but it was very clear that we weren't going to have any kind of creative control over that. Like it was one of these things, you know, young band, we looked very cute. could sell it as a sort of like a rock boy band type of thing to like the 12-year-old girls. That was sort of their angle. And they were going to bring in a songwriter, and they told us that we had to kick out our drummer because he was too old and too ugly. And they actually said that to us. And we were like, fuck off, like he's our friend. Like, and we're not interested. So we turned them down pretty much instantaneously. We were just like not interested. So all the money that our manager's already having like dollar signs in her eyes of all the money that she was going to get off of the record deal. Then it didn't happen. Then she was super pissed off. Then she said, well, then I'm not going to pay for the studio, because she had sent us into the studio to do some recordings. And we were like, yeah, but we've already done the recordings. So like someone's got to pay the studio, right? And she's like, yeah, well, I'm not paying it. So in the end, our road manager, who was a friend of our drummers, actually ended up just from his own private money paying the bill so that we wouldn't get our asses arrested, I guess. So it was like worst case scenario with management. I mean, really, like we were so over it. We were just so like, fuck this. Like we left the country almost overnight. We were like, we just grab our stuff and we're just out of here. Just like we're not leaving a contact address. We're just out of here. And we went to Hamburg and we wanted to kind of regroup there. And we were looking at, doing the independent band thing where we were going to do a European tour, that we were going to organize ourselves. And again, all still before the internet was anything big. So you still had to do that all with like fax machines and, setting everything up with calling up the clubs. And we did them. We were rehearsing for our next record and it was all going really well. And then fate struck again because our drummer went home over Christmas and because he was a huge Everton fan. So he was going to go see Everton over the Boxing Day. So he did that. And then on the way back from the game, he was loaded. Some other people were loaded. Words were said. People were pissed off. He got his head kicked in. And
by hooligans of the opposing team.
Yeah. And he had to get steel plates in his skull. So it was really severe. And he, of course, wasn't allowed to play drums then for quite a while because he wasn't allowed to move his head. So he fell into this massive depression because, drumming had been his outlet for everything. And like all of a sudden, it's just like, you're not doing it anymore. So he kind of holed up at his family's home in Liverpool and he was very hard to contact and he was just kind of vanished. And we were completely demoralized because we had put so much into this tour and into this idea. We had spent a big amount of money on CDs that we were going to sell at gigs, and then we just had like this 1,000 CDs that we weren't going to sell, but we had spent like 3,000 marks on them or something. It's a lot of money. And at that point, we were kind of done with it. We just said like, okay, no, we don't want to do this. We've done the professional musician thing for what we thought were many years. I mean, we were still kind of operating in child time, so it wasn't actually that many years. I mean, it was like we had started really doing it seriously when we were maybe 15 or 16. And at that point in 2000, we were 22. So, but it had been a couple of years and we felt it had been a long time and we were just kind of tired and we were sick of it. And we had made all these really negative experiences, had really seen like the shit stick end of it. And then we decided, right, we're not going to do it. We're going to stop. We're going to go back to school because we were high school dropouts. So we're going to go back to school, do our diploma. And then we went on to go to university and studied and build up our own life. We never entered society. We always like build up our own businesses and always did like our little quirky thing. We built up our own Latin language school, like a private Latin language school. And that's what we're mainly living on still after 20 years. So it worked. Yeah. Beside my charity work. Yeah. But yeah, so we did that and we completely stopped making music, but really completely because we could not imagine not doing it professionally. We were like all or nothing. Either we're musicians or we just don't. We sold our instruments. We were like, we're not doing this anymore. And then it kind of 2018.
Well, in 17 you got the first.
In 17, I bought the guitar. Oh, and we started writing songs again, and it was going to be very private, just for us, and we enjoyed it. And then we reconnected with our drummer, with Joe from Liverpool, and he listened to especially one of the new songs we had written, and he was like, "You should record this song."
That was in 2020, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was 2020 or 2019 or something. It was before COVID. But anyway, like, so he was like, you should record this song. This is a great song. And then we kind of shooting the shit with him a bit. It was like, well, how about we go into the studio? How about like we rent a cheap studio in Liverpool, the three of us, for old time's sake. We go in, we play a couple of these songs we never got around to recording from back then. We can play the new song. And that then turned into our first record, Music for the Planet, which we actually recorded over COVID. Every time we were allowed to travel, we were like, right, studio time. Let's go to Liverpool and do a couple of recording sessions. And then we did that record, and it was still like, we weren't thinking about doing it professionally, but we were having fun, and we were doing some gigs, but like just all small scale. And then we had that record, and we showed it to, over COVID, we had gotten to know James Michael through his online Zoom vocalist kind of group that his vocal coach was running.
Right.
And we had kind of become a little bit friends with him. We kind of just hit it off. And we sent him the record when it was done because we were proud of it. We said, look, this is what we've done. And then he was really into it. He really dug it. And then that was the first time we felt like, wow, like, a professional musician is actually digging this. This is cool. And then we just kind of on a whim, we kind of approached him and said, we have a couple more songs. Like, would you be interested in maybe, mixing them, mastering them to like a higher level? And then he was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And that's when we kind of got something in our brain just switched. And we're like, right. We are actually on a level where a professional musician is excited about our music. We are getting really excited writing it. We started noticing how we were applying like higher and higher standards to it, because all of a sudden we were slipping back into this professional musician mindset.
Like it just wasn't a hobby, and
it completely escalated. It's like completely escalated. All of a sudden now we're spending probably, we've combined 3 full-time jobs now, but we're spending so many hours on our music again. We're treating it, we're really thinking of ourselves as professional musicians again, which is great, because you kind of notice when you park art, when you're an artist and you kind of take art out of your life and you become maybe an art fan, and you're still passionate about it, but you're not producing it yourself anymore, there's a massive part of you that's missing, even if you might not realize it. But it's missing. And when we started doing it again, it was like, this was what made us complete again. Like, I've been so happy ever since we started making music again.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing feeling to finally be an active artist again. And it's like, now it's complete. Like, and now we're doing exactly the thing that we're passionate about. We're helping out people. We're spreading positivity, we're producing art, and at the same time we have our own jobs, which means we're not financially dependent on the art, which means we do not have to sign any contracts. We do not have to do anything we don't want to do. We're still going to look for label distribution. Like, we're still going to try to push our stuff out to a bigger audience because we believe it's worthy of that, and it's a good cause, and we want people to get the message. But it's not about earning money with it, and it's not about like being in that situation where you have to take any kind of shit they offer you, because we can survive without it. So
that's powerful.
Yeah, it's a wonderful situation to be in.
Yeah, we're happy.
Yeah, we're very happy.
Yeah.
And it makes me really happy. The whole thing is you dare to do it, and to do it your way, and to be excited about it. And I think it's very powerful. I think it's very exciting. And honestly, I think it would give people a lot of hope hearing your story, that like you truly can go through anything. And I still agree there's so many good things about doing it yourself versus getting yourself locked into a contract, especially early on. And I just love that you had the balls to say, no, we're keeping creative control. Go fuck yourself. Like, because so many people are willing to give it all up, but that's not what made you, and that's not what it's about. You to appeal to like 12-year-old girls and shit. No.
Yeah, at least not only, it's like nothing.
Exactly.
Right?
They're great.
Yeah, but
I work with 12-year-old girls a lot in my job. Like I do primary school workshops. So like,
Yeah, no, exactly.
yeah.
They're great, but that's not like that's your only audience, and it's not like you need to be specifically tailored for that.
Exactly.
It's like damn. And so I just love that, and that renewed happiness that you've found in creating is just it's so good to hear. It's so good.
It's just about building your life, just like building. That's like, I think one thing that we've been doing ever since we're 13. I mean, it's like when we met and we decided to do life together, like Xavi was telling me, like one day we're gonna live together, because we had this problem, right? That especially his mom really tried to pull us apart because she just didn't
think that
it
was a good thing.
She didn't like this thing, and then we had to go to different schools and everything. And Xavi was always to me, like, don't worry, we're gonna build a life together. And I at first didn't believe it, because I didn't think that it could be done, but it can be. And we've just been putting building blocks on top of one another for what, 35 years now, or whatever. Yeah, and just continuously assessing, reassessing. Do we like what we're doing? Is there anything we want to change? I think we've just always stayed very, very aware of this question: what do we want from life? And then you just keep building until it's cool.
We never fell into this kind of just following something because like I think what a lot of people get frustrated with is when they just kind of fall into something, right? They get a job and then they're in that routine, and then all of a sudden other things start to make the decisions for you in your life, and you just kind of swim along with it and try to stay afloat. Like it's just like you're continuously just dog pedaling, like just and you never have the time to really think like stop pedaling and just like, do I actually want to pedal in this direction, or do I maybe want to do something completely different? And I think that was something that we, for a lot of the time, we always had phases where we kind of got sucked under. I think otherwise I wouldn't have had the burnout. But
but
it was always
10-year depression that I had was also not great.
Yeah, but there was always points where we managed to stop and say, wait, what do we want to do? Like
how can we do this?
How can we do that? How are we going to figure it out?
Yeah.
And that was always the thing. Like we tried to figure shit out, and then we try to act upon. And I think we were very lucky that we both have a very strong moral compass. So we're both very moral driven. Like we were always, like the nature protection thing, animal rights, like all that kind of stuff. That there's a lot of justice, also human justice, anti-capitalism. There's just a lot of things that are very ingrained in our moral compass. So I think that really helped also to make decisions, because you kind of...
It rules out certain things.
Yeah, it rules out certain things. And certain, when it becomes more of a career mindedness, like we weren't so likely to fall into that, because there would always be these strong moral pulls that would just pull us always back towards where we thought we should be with our life, and we're just trying
where it felt more authentic.
I think authenticity is just really important to us.
As it should be too, right? Like, I think a lot more people are talking about that now too, about true authenticity and not that surface level bullshit that you see everywhere, right? So right now you are in the works of a new album.
Yeah.
And you said that's coming out in probably February.
February. Yeah. So it's called Exile from Mainstream.
Nice.
And because Exile on Main Street used to be one of our favorite Stones albums ever.
Yeah.
And it was always like they recorded it in their own home recording studio, and that's kind of what we're doing now. And obviously Exile from Mainstream, because fuck the mainstream. And it's got a lot of songs. What's really exciting to us about that album is that the oldest song on it is actually a song we wrote when we were 16 and we never recorded. And we came back to that, and it's just this high energy kind of power pop punk song that is so much fun, and it's one of the few relatively positive songs that we wrote back then. It's about making your own way. It's called "We Got It All," and it starts with the line, "Ain't it true that confusion is better than compromise?" And that's just like such a, yeah.
I think it's exactly like we said earlier, right? Like we're messy, chaotic beings, and what's somehow important is that you stay true to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Don't compromise your authenticity.
Yeah.
So that's the oldest song on it. And then we're kind of we've got a bunch of really new songs. One we're actually still finishing writing right now. Apart from that, it's all done. But yes, about, like, for example, tree communication, which would be mother tree. And then we have another one about sort of contemplating life through the leaves, through the branches of a willow tree. So that's very kind of meditative thing. It's a rock song, but it's like a meditative rock song about,
Yeah, you can meditate while listening to rock.
and then we've got one that's called Leopard Slugs, and that's about the slugs that come into our living room at night, because we live in an old, like, 200-year-old cottage, so there's like
Tracks
everywhere, and we sometimes find slugs inside that come and eat the cat food. So it's about these slugs. It's a punk song about slugs and about like and against people who put out slug pellets, and so that's a
I mean, it's like I think it's so typical for us that it's like a super fun blowout song called like
Leopard Slugs
under my floorboard. But it just has this deep philosophical layer, where it's just about cohabitation, and the slugs were there long before this house was here, and why do you think you have the right to evict them now or even poison them just because you find them yucky and slimy? It's like, I think it's a very typical song for us in a way. It's sort of like fun it's fun and you can rock out to it, but it does plant a thoughtful seed.
And that can be applied to so many things, right? Like,
yeah. And it's funny just talking about weird topics, because we play 2 cover songs on that record. One is that Der Traum ist aus by that punk band that I grew up with, and then the other one is Bugs by Pearl Jam. Which is probably, if you're looking at Pearl Jam's oeuvre, it's one of their weirdest songs. It's just like, I don't know it's just an accordion, and it's very atonal, and it's very weird, but it's really cool. And we're doing kind of like a jazz rock version of it. But as soon as we play it within our oeuvre, it makes complete sense. It's not weird at all. It's like, yeah, it's a song about bugs. We've also got songs about woodlice and about larvae and about, like, it's so funny how you could take a song that is really weird
in one oeuvre
and then just take it and with us all of a sudden it makes complete sense. So we hope that's going to, like, get some smiles from people. It's like,
it sounds like it will.
Songs, why did you cover bugs? Because it makes sense.
So now I'm really excited to hear the album. Will you have it for sale online or at tours or?
That's a good question, actually. So we're not on Spotify. We took all our music off of Spotify because of that whole investment in military technology and the donations to Trump's inauguration and generally the bad pay for the artists. So we initially had our stuff on Spotify, but we were like, nah, not doing that. So it's not on Spotify. It is on some other streaming. It's going to be on some other streaming platforms.
So you can listen to it for free.
Stream it. We also make it available for download on our website. And we generally have this approach to both our music and also our band merch, that we make it all pay what you can, because we don't depend on it financially. That's one of the big things that
you always sound like we're so wealthy.
Well, yeah, no, we're not wealthy at all. We're just about scraping by, but we're not budgeting with our music making money. That's what I like.
Yeah, right. we're just fine with, like, living in a in a tiny
we don't need much
place
money
with a broken roof. Yeah,
but
no, we don't need more to be happy.
We're not interested in money though.
No.
But so what we do is basically we figured. We know what it's like if you're always the poor person who can't afford the stuff, like at concerts, or like who can't afford to buy the record. So we make it all pay what you can. So basically, no matter if it's a band shirt or if it's a CD or something, we have it all on our website and people can just choose whatever they want to pay. And if they can only afford to pay like postage, or if they can only afford to pay £1,
they can get it.
They can get it.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to pay more, then
they can pay more.
Yeah.
So that's how it's going to be. So we're going to have it on Bandcamp as well, but we mainly try to direct people to our website, and there they can just get whatever they want. They can get downloads, and we will have a couple of actual CDs as well. But we're always trying to not produce too much more stuff since we want to be sustainable. So
generally we're trying to be really creative with our merch and find cool sustainable ways. Like for example, our band T-shirts. I'm really proud of. They're really fucking awesome because what we do is we go to charity shops and just buy blank T-shirts without print, and then we just hand print them. So we have these beautiful lino cuts we're making ourselves, and then we just print them. So we got colorful T-shirts, like all different colors and sizes and shapes, and we just put our designs on them, and then you can buy them for however much you want to pay. So we support charity with it. We're not creating extra stuff, and
so we're always trying to
just be positive, you know?
Yeah,
that's so cool.
So that's why we're not going to have a ton of actual physical CDs, but we ourselves love physical media. I mean, we've got a record collection, we've got CDs, so we're going to probably do like a run of 50 or 100 CDs, and then we're just going to see them when they're gone. Then maybe we're going to make another run. So there will be some actual physical CDs as well. But
for people who want to buy it, we're going to have it.
Yeah.
And so if people are looking for you, then where is the best place to find you?
The best place would be our website, which is www.the-lurxx.com. There's everything is collected there. So if you on that website, there will be links to. We're on Instagram at the Lürxx, and we're also, I get automatically by default, we're also on Facebook. We've got a mailing list, which we're always trying to get people to get on because we want to get them off of the Meta platforms because, Meta is kind of shit too. So
so if you're interested in staying in touch, then best thing is probably to give us your email address, and then
and there's a thing on our website where you can sign up and give us your email address.
Yes,
and
love a good mailing list.
And it's like we're actually relaunching
this really nice again. Because in the 90s, pre-internet, we had paper stuff that we sent out to our supporters, and we just started doing that again. So we just started.
So this is our newsletter, and that's issue number 9. Issue number 8 came out in 1999, and we're basically, if people want to go really retro and actually receive a paper newsletter in the mail from a band, we're going to send these out a couple of times a year they can just
email us their address
on recycled paper.
Exactly, and it's just like handwritten in Xerox, just like what we used to do
in the 90s.
So
if you give us
that's so cool.
We're gonna send one to you.
Yeah, I'm signing up immediately. Well, honestly, I've had so much fun chatting with you today, and I cannot wait to hear the new album. I think it's beautiful, the messages that you guys are sending out to the world, and I think people will really, really latch on to it.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun talking to you. Thank you for taking the time.
It is 100% my pleasure. And we're going to put all the links into the show notes so that people can come connect with you. And again, thank you so much for being here today, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much for joining us on the Healthy Metal Hippie podcast. For more ways to connect, go to www.healthymetalhippie.com.